and I want to kind of deep dive into who their business is, what they like, what they don't like. I try to really understand them. I kind of call it brand therapy on the side, but my sister who is a therapist is like, you can't call it that. But it basically is. So I try to explain it that way because I'm trying to get to know you. Try to get to understand who your business is apart from you and how to merge those two, because you have to like your brand in the end, because you're gonna have to see it like all the time on everything.
So Amanda, thank you for joining the podcast today.
You're welcome.
You were one of like my first connections in the Lancaster area because we met at the networking event for LYP, the Lancaster Young Professionals, at the Southern Market, I remember. Mm-hmm. And you do graphic design, which is, like a creative field that like I'm in video, but it kind of like resonated with me a little bit. And then I eventually hired you to design a PDF for me, and you did an awesome job. And, we've had a bunch of like conversations about, freelancing and like your journey with that, which I'd love to dive into. But first of all, thank you for being here.
Yeah. Well, thanks for inviting me and having me here. Yeah. It's so funny. I just mentioned to you the other week that you were my first client, and I thought it was insane that you had no idea that you were my first client. And that's tip number one. You got to fake it till you make it sometimes.
Yeah, don't reveal that.
Yeah, don't reveal that it's your first client. If you're going to have your first client,
got to start somewhere.
Go in with confidence, even if you don't really have the confidence. I mean, I've done graphic design for years, so it wasn't necessarily my first time doing graphic design. So I think that also helped. And in that time waiting to try to get that first client, because I knew once I got the first one, then more would come, but it was a struggle to get that first one. And I see a lot of people ask that a lot. And I had done everybody's advice. I did some passion projects and I posted those. I started posting on social media more, and I'm always out and about anyways, even if I'm going to a networking event or not. I found it really helpful to go to those, but mainly to go to things that I enjoy. So I meet a lot of people through dance or running, like Run Club and things like that. And then you meet more like-minded people, and you just naturally spark a conversation. And so it helped, but I wasn't getting any clients. And I think it's hard to just get started, but I was so glad that we had just kind of like met mutually, and we just were able to talk about things that we were like interested in. And then you're like, hey, like, could you help me with this thing? And that's kind of how I got my second client as well. I was just at the cafe working, and they were like, hey, cool laptop cover. And then I said, hey, here's my sticker, which is my business card. I use a sticker. And then they were like, yeah, well, actually, we need a designer. It would be great to have somebody local. Like, we have one already for the branding, but if you could help us with some other things, that would be great.
Sometimes it's unexpected and you can't predict that.
Yeah. So I did all the things like passion projects and everything, but it gave me time to work on setting things up. So by the time I had that first client, I kind of had everything laid out on how I wanted us to kind of go through the process of things, but it was nice to have a tester.
Yeah, I think when you go into those networking events, you just have to go in with an open mind and not expect to get clients out of it, and just really try to really meet new people and make friends, because I did get that impression a little bit with the events that are catered towards business networking, where I would talk to someone and it would be like, do they genuinely want to get to know me, or do they want to like get me enrolled in their bank? Yeah. So it's like, you can't really tell. Whereas, which I that's why I've liked going to the Run Club that we both go to, because it doesn't seem like there's much of an agenda with it. It's just get a good run in, meet new people, and that's it. Like there's no expectation of like people are going here to get clients or get business, and it can kind of seem like disingenuous in a way. I don't know if you've experienced that, but
yeah, definitely. You can tell when somebody's trying to sell you something, and it's all part of the business, and it feels kind of weird to do when you're in the business area, but there's a good way to do it and a natural way to do it and a very obvious like way to do it. And I think if you're just passionate about what you do, that sells itself when you're talking to people. And if you're truly interested in what you're doing, like who's going to buy from you if you don't believe or like the product that you're trying to sell? Mm-hmm. So I think in itself, that sells itself. So when you naturally meet people through either a networking event or just going out doing hobbies that you like and just getting to know your community and your city, because I think community is so important, is top tier, and that'll just kind of naturally flow everything. People always ask me, like, how do you sell yourself, or how do you market yourself? Like, how do you keep it going? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just out here doing my thing. Of course, there's like marketing tactics that you can do, like promos, and
I think it's all about
things like that.
It's just not trying too hard.
Yeah.
Just be genuine and just try to make connections in general and don't really expect anything out of it. Mm-hmm. And then it's like you said, that will eventually turn into work, whether it's someone that you meet or they might know someone that needs a designer. And oftentimes it's just completely like out of left field and just something that you don't even, you just can't predict it no matter how intentional you are about it. So I mean, that's one thing that I've learned, but I think that's great perspective.
Yeah. I mean, and you can be intentional about what events that you're going to, but then from there, just kind of be open to the experience and be present and not have like, I have to sell myself, or I have to just kind of be in the moment, and everything will kind of fall into place. And I rather talk to a few people and have really good conversations with them than try to talk to everybody and make sure everybody gets my business card, because people will want to buy from other people. People want to buy from their friends. They want to buy from somebody who's trustworthy and who's more trustworthy than your friends. So like, you're not going to go into it being like, I'm going to try to befriend this person. Not in that way either, but like you said, just naturally, and it'll kind of fall into place.
You have to be more than just an offer or a service provider. That's why I think it goes into even like the content that you put on social media, like even posting the occasional thing like about your personal life, or to just so people see that you're not totally consumed by your business or whatever, and you have other things going on in your life that make you human, mm-hmm. and that other, ordinary people can relate to. And then, I mean, that contributes to how you're perceived, and it helps people see you in a way where it's relatable and they want to work with you. So that's kind of like a sort of related topic there, where you just have to prioritize like the human aspect of it, and the other stuff will kind of fall into place.
Yeah. I mean, especially speaking of human aspect, like the world of AI, nobody knows what to trust, and it's getting very smart, and there's a way to use it and a way not to use it. And I think community in its whole, with everything going on in the world and where we're at, is the most important thing that we can build. And you can do that by, showing your personality. And I actually learned from Pete, like, if you're going to show your personality, also, make sure to tie it back into your business, but you don't always have to be selling yourself. And that can be part of your brand. Like, I think sometimes that's the hard thing, is differentiating you versus your brand, especially like me, where I am my brand.
Yeah.
But you definitely have to figure out that balance for yourself. And I think there is a way to incorporate some of like the history of how your company started and things like that. That's very interesting. People want to know that. And I think you can build that into your branding, even in your logo.
Right.
But so yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Let's go back to, I forget, you might have told me. So you studied graphic design, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about that whole experience and just, your journey leading up to freelancing, I guess.
Yeah, so I went to Kutztown because I really liked how they had everything laid out. You started with fine arts, drawing skills and things like that, and then you got into your basic computer design, learning how to use Photoshop and Illustrator, and then you had different concentrations, so it was called communication design. So it was CD for short, and which I really like because it does encapsulate everything, because everything we use to communicate to our customer, our client, through design. So we had different concentrations. So there was interactive, so that was your coding and your like prototyping, interactive things. So you could even do like projection mapping later on, things like that. That was super cool. You could do graphic design. So graphic design is anything like printable, printed. So it could be magazine layout. It could be flyers, posters, packaging design, things like that sorts. And then they also had advertisement. And you could also concentrate in illustration. And so it was really hard for me to pick which one I wanted because I loved everything. And I really wanted to go to a school where I could learn graphic design, but also learn some of that computer web stuff because that was kind of where we were at in that era. And a lot of places, they only had just incorporated web design. So for a while there, actually was a dual concentration, even though you're supposed to limit it to one. So I really packed my schedule and I was interactive in graphic design. And then towards the very end, I decided that I was going to major in graphic design, just because I really love the print world. And I think I liked the coding and the prototyping, but I didn't always fall in love with it fully. I definitely would like to incorporate it back in with some of the things that we have now, like Framer and Figma. You don't always need to learn the coding aspect. You can stick to the design part. Mm-hmm. And I loved the prototyping aspect of like the user experience. And I think that's very much involved in graphic design too, on like what makes somebody click something, like how do we unconsciously know it's a button and things like that, and and how to make something not just look pretty but useful. So I think it was really important that I did take those interactive classes, even though I wanted to be a graphic designer, because I was able to mesh that kind of mindset into my graphic design, because it really isn't just pretty pictures, it's also something that's gonna solve a problem. So I graduated there, and then I had interned at Infantry, which is in Lancaster, and that's how I realized that I really liked Lancaster. Also because I almost went to PCAD. So I had visited Lancaster, I just didn't go there because of like housing stuff, which they now have, and just kind of liking Kutztown campus and program a little bit better for what I was looking for. And so I had done a packaging design there that was a little bit more masculine, and they really let me take it from start to finish. I got to research the actual physical packaging that I was going to use and present it to them as if they were my client, and it was going to be for them, so they actually were my client. It was going to be for their Ellicott & Co. men's grooming line. And I researched different like typography that I wanted to use and laid out different designs, and we ended up coming to a consensus of which direction we wanted to go. And then I actually built it, and then we photographed it, and I added it to the website of what that might look like on the website. So I even did a little bit of web design on that end too. So it was a really great project, and I think that is what led me to packaging design. Mm-hmm. So then from there, I ended up working at Woodstream, and I did packaging design for like 8+ brands. It was a lot of like pest control and things like that. So that was an interesting atmosphere because you have a lot of regulated type, and that's not something that you learn in college of how do I fit all of this necessary information that like has to be there and has certain regulations that has to be a certain size and things like that. And that's something that's you only learn in the real world. And so I really liked what I did there. And so I was there for 4 years. And eventually I just decided there was no more growth opportunities there for me. And I had left with no other job, which I don't suggest. And I didn't think that I was going to be a freelancer. Like, I kind of used to always think that freelancers were kind of like the people who couldn't make it in a way. I don't know. And I had a class called Professional Practices, which was really cool in Kutztown. And they taught you about freelancing and like what's all involved in that and like how to interview well, and which I think is really awesome that they had that. And I thought, who would want to do that? You have to do everything. Who would want to do all those things? Like, that's so much to do. But I had snagged a freelancer job because, again, through like people that my friend posted, hey, we're looking for a freelancer. And after I left my job, I traveled for a month and visited my old college friends that were living other areas. And he had posted that, and I was like, well, I need a job, so let me snag something, even if it's just like a quick freelance thing, as long as I don't have a gap in my resume. It was kind of mainly what that was for. And then I was still on the hunt for other just like agency jobs. I thought maybe like the corporate world wasn't for me, and that like atmosphere wasn't really for me because I was getting really burnt out, and that's why I left in the first place, along with the no growth opportunities, which I think happens to a lot of people when you get, especially designers, when you get into the real world of design. You kind of have to realize like where your creativity is being used versus not. Like, there's certain things that you have to understand with that and have to accept. And I definitely was like, yeah, maybe like corporate's not bad. Like, I don't mind doing this type of work and then maybe saving more creative stuff for myself. I think that's also fine. But I think in general, I realized like maybe I want something that's more of an agency again, like how I was in infantry. So I had actually snagged an agency job, but because if I work at an agency, I can't freelance anymore. And I think when I had to sign the contracts with all that, I think I kind of realized...
Oh, it was in the contracts or just like time limitations?
Well, I mean, you can't really be doing other work for other people. I kind of asked them if I could still work with the company I was working with, because I work with a book publishing company. So I make all of their like Amazon content. So it was kind of more like web design stuff. More like digital design, should I say, things. And it had nothing to do with what they were doing. And they were kind of more directed towards advertisement and not publishing. So I thought that would be fine. And they said that was fine. I could continue working with them, but I couldn't really continue doing stuff on my own.
It's a competition thing. They just they feel like you're threatening other potential business. Is that like the whole thought process with like not having you do anything too similar like in the area, or?
Yeah, basically, because you would be working against them because you're working for them, but then you're also trying to do your own thing. Like it's very conflicting, and I can see that. And I think
I've signed NDAs before when I've like freelanced for people, but not like that restrictive.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't an NDA. I had asked if they had an NDA, and they said no, but after looking it over with a lawyer, they did say it was very, very close to an NDA. So always read your contracts. But I think that experience like that is actually what pushed me to realize that I wanted to continue to be a freelancer. Like, I had this opportunity right there. I could have just taken it. And even if that is something, and we ended up going our separate ways, and I ended up going like, okay, you know what? I actually really want to just go full force with this freelancer thing, because I was doing it for a year, but I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and then I really set my heart on it. So
how long ago was this?
Like 2 years ago, or maybe Oh my gosh. How long ago was it? I feel like time
I'm
is
trying to put a timeline together because
maybe 3,
I
but
don't remember when that networking event was where we met
yeah.
at. It was probably 2 years ago. So I'm just
Maybe
trying to
like 2.5.
yeah, I'm trying to remember just like timeline wise, like at that networking event, like where you were at in your career. But
I think
it's all kind of a blur at this
I
point.
think then I was like, I'm gonna full force go into freelance. I think. Yeah, I think that's when I was full force, like, let me go into freelancing. And so I kind of had like my business mindset on, but I also wasn't necessarily going there to like sell myself. But I had heard about LYP for a long time. And I had gone to some other events around Lancaster before I was my own business. And a lot of people were kind of like, what do you want from me? Cause I was like, oh, nothing. Cause I already had a job. I wasn't like looking for a job. And
Yeah.
I thought that was like odd and kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I also went to other networking events just to kind of like meet people that were like-minded. And I ended up meeting a lot of like financial advisors and more real estate agents. So I think regular networking events, those are great for those people because they seem to be they have the same process. But
If you need a mortgage or if you need a new bank,
but I mean, it's helpful
events.
if I needed a house or if I needed somebody to help me with, if I was in a state to get somebody to help me with my finances, which I'll probably need in the future. So that was great. But it was definitely more helpful to join like creative specific networking events or something like young professionals was pretty good because it was people more around my age range and people I could relate to. And also I didn't really have a lot of friends because like when I moved to Lancaster, it was 2020. It was during COVID. So I just wanted to kind of get out there and kind of explore and maybe see other people's experiences. So when I found Silo, which is the creative community, it's a lot more photographers and videographers, but I thought it was really great to be in it, even though I'm a graphic designer, because I met other people that were entrepreneurs and who were doing it full time or part time or just were really passionate about their hobbies and art and creativity. So I got to really understand what that was about, and I felt a little bit more like comfortable with the path that I was taking after being a part of that. So it's been really helpful too, just getting to know people. And I got like my first business photos at Silo, and then I was able to kind of like post those and add those into some of my different things that I have, like my proposal or goodbye package and stuff like that, and just be like, hey, it's me.
Community is so important for just so many different reasons. Just on like a personal level, but also on like a business level. And it's good to try to just go to as many events as you can, but ones that are focused on like the creative side, I think can be especially impactful. So you have other people around who are like on the same path as you.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, it builds that confidence. And I think that's the main thing that I was lacking in. Because even though I'd been in graphic design for 6+ years, it's a different world freelancing. You have to do a lot of other things. You can't just be good at design. You have to also be good with your finances and be your own lawyer for a little bit. Like until you can have money to pay for other people to do those things, you need to be smart in a business way, and you have to figure out how to market yourself, and you have to be your social media content creator. You see all those memes everywhere that's like me being every single thing in the company, like, oh, I'm leaving corporate just to work 24 hours of my life.
Right.
But it's also so completely different. Like, I'm so afraid of burnout, but at the same time, you have to remind yourself that you are in charge of your schedule, and sometimes you have to work extra because you're trying to make it, even though you have your own schedule, and it takes a while to get to the point where you're like, yeah, I'll go on vacation, I'll do these, or find that way to maybe work less hours, but make it manageable. But like, it's different because it's all up to you, which can be really scary, but also very like, I don't know, enlightening. I don't know what the word is. Yes, like when you do something really difficult and then it was like challenging, but in a good way. I don't.
Yeah,
I guess fulfilling because it's a challenge and
it's worth pursuing.
But basically, it's up on you. So it's gonna reveal things that you need to work on, and if it fails, it's up on you. And I don't even want to use the word fail, but if there's something that needs work on, if it starts to teeter-totter, you're going to notice that very quickly, and you have that control to do something about it. And that feels really good because I think sometimes when you have such a big business and you have so many people working for you in a corporation, there's so many middlemen, things can get lost, that sometimes you don't feel like you have any control. Yeah. And I think that's what I was lacking in corporate. And I didn't need like control of everything, but I just didn't feel heard or seen or felt like I had any say in anything. And now I have like complete say in how it's running, for the better or for worse. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk about like, because, you know, when you're a freelancer, there are a lot of people that like offer graphic design, and you just have to find ways to differentiate yourself. And I just want to talk about like your approach to how you're crafting the experience of working with you to make it memorable. Mm. And I remember like something that really stood out when I hired you that was like so refreshing, honestly, was the organization and a very clear sequence of events, like from the communication over email and then sending the proposal, getting that approved, signing the contract, paying the deposit, a clear timetable for revisions, the approval, getting the final file delivery, paying the balance. Just like you had like a very well organized, thought out sequence. So, which is something that I need to improve. But I'm just curious, like, I'm sure that's intentional, but if you were to like boil down, like what are the things that like set me apart from all the other freelancers that do graphic design, like what would those attributes be?
Yeah. Well, I would say that I'm very community driven. I'm very focused on making human made designs. Like I don't want to involve AI in my design process at all. Now I might add AI in the future to maybe making mock-ups because I feel that's like a fake version of a thing. It's like, hey, this is maybe what it'll look like in the end. And that's not something that you're going to then...
It's not a final product.
It's not a final product. So I think as long as you're intentional about where you use it, and then maybe with using Loom, so like being able to record my meetings so that they can look back on it and it's all in one place, because I was just recording them anyways. But I try to keep human-made designs, like everything is from my brain. Everything is from working together. So like strategy as well. Like I'm not just design, have a very clear strategy, and I want to kind of deep dive into who their business is, what they like, what they don't like. I try to really understand them. I kind of call it brand therapy on the side, but my sister who is a therapist is like, you can't call it that. But it basically is. So I try to explain it that way because I'm trying to get to know you. Try to get to understand who your business is apart from you and how to merge those two, because you have to like your brand in the end, because you're going to have to see it like all the time on everything. Right. So I also really make sure that my clients take time to look at it. And I actually had a client who was like, oh, I'll give this to you tomorrow. She was really good with like quick feedback, which we enjoy. You don't want to take too much time either. But sometimes there is something about being too quick about feedback where you're not letting it sink in. So I really make sure that, I kind of like call my clients out, and I just am real with them, and I say, hey, you need to sit with it because you're going to see this all the time. I just try to be very honest. Also having that clear process. Like if I were somebody working with me, just kind of put myself in their shoes, I would want to know what's coming next, because that's super stressful not knowing that. As somebody who also has like ADHD and anxiety, like I need to know what's going to be happening next. And it's nice to have that clear path. I think that also builds that trust, because they're trusting me with their brand. And to me, it's not just a brand. As somebody who is also is building their own business, that business is your baby. Like, you have to think of it as somebody is handing their baby to you. Like, they birthed that thing from the beginning. They were there, and now they have to explain it to you. They have to, like, you want to make sure that you fully understand how to babysit the child, basically.
Yeah. I think one aspect of that that's often overlooked is having a timetable with things. Mm-hmm. Like, this is something that Pete talked about. I know he's like, you do a brand in a week, where it's like you actually put a time expectation on things, and that can set you apart, because oftentimes, like, if you make a video for someone, or you take photos, or do a design, or like a creative service, it's like, okay, I'll send them to you when they're done. But it's like having an actual expectation, or just having a plan, and not being like, okay, well, we'll get this done whenever, and hopefully it works out whenever, or kind of like abandoning the client once everything is sent. Like, I had another conversation about this on a recent podcast, just about being, like you said, being a strategist, and not just someone who makes a design and like calls it a day. Like, building up a long-term client relationship that's focused on getting those results for people. And that all stems from asking those questions and having a genuine understanding of the person that you're working with.
Yeah.
Which is something, like you said, the human part of it, that it kind of, at least for now, whenever, like, separating it from the AI, in terms of like having that understanding.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of things to consider in like having a service that feels personalized and is actually results driven, and not just like rushing through things or doing the bare minimum to get by.
Oh yeah. And people say, even with AI too, like, you have to know what you're asking for. And I've even had experiences where I think the client thought they knew what they wanted, but through our strategy process, they're realizing, oh, I guess I have no idea. So that's why I also have that, because I want to make sure they are very confident and clear in what they're looking for, because you can't ask somebody to make something if you don't even really know what you're looking for.
Right. And oftentimes people don't even, they're like, which was actually going to be part of my next question, is people might realize that they need to get their branding under control, or that their branding is not great, but they just flat out don't know what needs to be done. Yeah. And like, you have to be the consultant that not just does the design, but tells them, like, based on their current situation, these are the steps that we have to put in place in order to like turn this around, because oftentimes they don't even know what they need. Right?
Yeah. And you need that kind of parent. You need somebody who knows, who's gone through a few things, and who can hold your hand through it. But also, what a parent does is they're not just gonna, baby you the whole time. They're also gonna be straightforward, and they're gonna help guide you in a very, very kind way. But also, when you need it, they're gonna be like, hey, maybe we got to figure out and realign on what we're looking for, because maybe we're going back and forth too much. And I don't always think that that's a bad thing. I think that's up to the designer to then call that out. And I think that's also what makes me different. I think having that corporate experience of, you get a lot of micromanaging and things of that sort. So you start to learn when to kind of let those things go, and when to speak up for yourself, and those boundaries. And you have to have boundaries as a freelancer. It's so important. But I think I've seen so many things online recently of people kind of making fun of their clients. I mean, you always hear like, make the logo bigger, and I want it to pop, and things like
that. Move this over by 2 pixels.
Yeah. But you also have to understand, like, your client's coming to you because they don't know anything about design. That's why they're hiring you. So I think it's so important to educate them and come with it with empathy, but also honesty. Like I said, like, I'm going to be real with you, but I'm there to help you. And it's nice to have that. Like, I think if you need to start, don't let design stop you from starting your business. Sometimes you just have to go, and you don't have the finances for it, and you just have to use what you have for the time being. And then when you're ready, when you kind of have a sense of who you are as a business, and you have some finances that you've gotten, and people are liking your product or your business, then that's when I think it's really important to get your branding right, because then you can't really grow without it, because like I've mentioned on my Instagram, it's a personification of who you are. It's like everybody's first impression, the way that you're speaking to them, the way that you're dressing yourself up, aka your logo, like what it looks like, what your packaging looks like. People see that first, and then they'll read it, or then they'll try it. And how do you get them to try that really great thing? So I think it's super important. But I'm also not against like educating people or just having people start where they need to. I'm not gonna be rude about, oh, you're using this AI logo, oh, that's awful. Like sometimes I think it's good if you just need like something quick and you just need that thing to start. Because I think even as a freelancer, like it took me a while just to get started and to do the things. So it's not always bad, but I think if you really want to stand out from other people and grow and be unique and really relate to your customers, you're going to need a solid branding.
Yeah, I think people really don't realize the importance of branding, or they might be totally oblivious to the fact that their current setup is working against them in a way. And it's just something where you think of like, oh, like graphic design or whatever, how it's just kind of this skill that anyone can do or whatever, or because of like the accessibility of all these programs or whatever. But I just think there's so many other layers to it, like you've been talking about today, where, and also just all the different types of design. Like you have, I mean, I'm sure the approach that you take to packaging versus apparel versus web design versus just focusing on logos or doing a full, just a full rebrand of something. They're all like probably unique skill sets in and of themselves. And that's something I noticed with video, or people might like lump video and photo together. Oh, you do video, so you must do photo, right? Or you do video, so you can do weddings, or oh, you do video, so you can do ads like this. And it's just kind of, it's something about just any creative field. There's like generalizations that are made. And what I'm trying to say is I think people should realize the impact and the importance of branding and design and how that actually translates over to like an ROI and business results, because it does, like down to like the psychology, like you said, why you click on buttons, why you stay on a page, or there's all this stuff like that. It's kind of just a big word salad right there, but I don't know.
No, branding is so important and impactful. Like I just saw a few videos the other day where it literally shapes our world. Like, yes, it's pretty pictures, and if you market it right, yes, you can grow and people will want to grab the product off the shelf or things like that, or want to buy from your business or walk into your store because they're intrigued. But also it shapes how we live. I mean, I saw a video that's like, oh, why did women even start shaving their legs? Because they wanted to sell more razors, not just to men, but to women. So then they started marketing it, saying that you had to do that, or with like engagement rings. That became a thing because they decided that they wanted to sell to a certain clientele, because their problem was that they were only selling to very limited amounts of something, and they also wanted to seem higher end. So they're like, oh, you have to have this thing. You have to have it. And now it's become a tradition that's like lasted to this century, which is insane. And it all just started because of the way that they were branding it.
Right.
So it's quite interesting to see how of an impact you can have with just little graphics. Plus, it's around you all the time. It's why I decided to pick out this shirt, and it's why I got that one type of milk versus the other, because I think this one looks like it would be healthier for me and like less hormones or something. And yeah, it's in your everyday and you don't even realize. So
yeah, that's very eye-opening for sure when you think about that, and just applying that to, you know, if we're like applying it to business or whatever, it has an impact like regardless, and on so many different aspects of like how people perceive you, and if people want to stick around or work with you, it's really something to take time and consider. So
yeah. And it is important to have that process that I have laid out. I think you should have something that's organized and very clear and people know what they're doing next. And I'm always trying to improve that. I'm actually working on some improvements with that to make it maybe even easier than just emailing people what their next steps are.
right.
But I think
I got to work on my process. Yeah.
Hey,
It's better than
honestly,
mine.
it's always a constant changing thing. But you want that consistency, but then also realizing that every client is different. And you're talking about serving clients. You have to get to know them to be able to serve them correctly. You can't just be putting a cookie cutter thing to each person expecting it to work, because everybody is individual in their own way. But yes, there are certain common themes, different things that you'll be able to put in those different processes for. But in the end, I love having that like deep strategy session so I can understand what makes them unique so I can show it to other people.
Absolutely. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for doing this. It's very insightful, and I love diving into all of it. If people want to reach out to you for your services, where should they go?
Yeah, acollins.design. That is my website. It's .design, not .com, but it's also my Instagram. So you can book a call with me and we can talk about whatever project that you have on my website, acollins.design. And check out my Instagram because I have a lot of other projects there. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, Amanda, highly recommend her. So definitely,
Thank you.
if you need design, check her out. So
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
again.